All right, hey guys. I've already done a review on the Walther PPK S, and I want to do a kind of a compare and contrast with the Bulgarian Makarov. That's what this one is. It's very similar. They're both a blowback design. So I want to take a look at both of them and compare them a little bit, see which ones are better in some ways and which one's better in other ways, and how they both perform being a similar blowback function. So stick around, we'll take a look at it on the tabletop. Okay, as I mentioned, they're very similar. We have the Walther PPK and the Bulgarian Makarov. This is in 380 ACP. This one would be a 9mm Makarov, which are very similar in size. If we take a closer look at them both here, see if we can get them to line up. This is the 9mm Makarov here, and this is a 380. Very similar in size. They are a hair different in the diameter. So if you take a look at them, they're a little bit different. Also, the casing is a little bit longer on the Makarov than it is. It's almost discernible. You probably can't even see it through the camera, but the Makarov is a slightly longer case. Let's see. There we go. Slightly longer case on the Makarov, so they're very similar, but the important piece is they don't fit together in the same gun. You can use them interchangeably, so do not do that. Okay, let's go over a little bit of the background of both of them. They're both a blowback design, meaning it has a fixed barrel, and the slide runs straight back and forth. It's not a tilting barrel, it's not a rotating barrel. The barrel is fixed. We'll open them up and you can see that they're both the same way. They both have a barrel attached to the frame. Again, like I mentioned on the PPK video, if you haven't seen it, I'll put a link to it up above here as well. But it is a blowback design, and because of that, it's a lot more inherently accurate because that barrel does not move. It's fixed on the frame. It's always going to be in the same location. The weight on the PPK is 22.1 on the stainless steel version. If you have the blued, I don't know why it's a little bit more, but it's a 23.5. And then if you look at the Makarov, it's a 25.67 ounce gun. So they're very close. I mean, within 3 ounces, that can be a little bit, but actually when you pick them up, it's hard to tell the difference. And in fact, the PPK almost feels heavier, maybe because it's more compact. So in the PPK, you've got a 6-round capacity. If you use the PPK S, you're going to get a 7-round capacity. The magazines are steel magazines. They're both 7-round capacity. These have 2 different mags, one with a flush mount base plate on the magazine. The other one has a little pinky extension, which gives you that 3 full fingers on the gun. But when you move over to the Makarov, you're going to get an 8+1. So you get a little bit more, or a single round, but it's also bigger, a little bit more potent round than the 380 ACP. Size-wise, you can see they're very close. PPK obviously is a little bit smaller, but it's not much when you actually look at it. If you look at the overall, if you take the beaver tail back, they're very close in size, overall length. The difference you really see is when you get the grip. We line them up, you've got at least another inch coming out of that Makarov. But it gives you that 3 full fingers right off the bat without a pinky extension, and it's still very small in comparison to a lot of other handguns. Now when it comes to comfort, we talk about the same thing. Having that 3 full fingers, this fits your hand very nicely. It's very nicely rounded. One of the complaints I had with the PPK was these sharp edges here on the back of the back strap, digging into your web of your hand. And when you go over to the Makarov, it's nice and rounded here with these Bakelite grips on it, but it fits very comfortably. And it's a very comfortable handgun, and it's very small, single stack gun. I mean, everybody wants a single stack nowadays, and these are some of the original single stack guns. The mag release is a little bit different. So on the PPK, you've got a mag release here up by your trigger guard, like you're familiar with. It's not ambidextrous, as you can tell. But when you look at the Makarov, it's got a heel. So when you insert your magazine, it's got a heel release that drops it, and they don't free freely drop. You got to pull them out. But it has a little heel release for you to bring out that magazine. So it's a little bit different. A lot of the older and European styles have some sort of base of the grip release, and Makarov is no different. One of the things I notice, at least on the ejection port, the Makarov has a lot smaller ejection port than the PPK does. That's not to say, you saw the rounds are very similar in size. I've never had a problem with this. I don't know if some of the older PPKs have a smaller ejection port, but this is a fairly small size here on the Makarov. But again, I've never had any issues with them ejecting. In fact, I think this has been more, it is well broken in, but it is never had as many issues as I've had with the PPK. Again, going back to steel case ammo and things like that, if I'm using brass, neither one of them has ever been an issue. So now we have the safety decockers on both of these. They're a little bit different in the way they operate. In the PPK, you have it safe is when it, or excuse me, fire is when it's up, and the safety decocker is when it's down. So that'll decock it. But if you want to take it off safe, you've got to run that up in the opposite direction. Difference being on the Makarov, you are in the fire position now. If you want to put it on safe, it goes straight up. The other thing is when it's straight up and you're in the safe position, you're not going to move that slide, you're not going to move that hammer, you're not going to move that trigger. Everything is locked into place. Now the grips, these have the wraparound grips on the Makarov, very similar to the PPK. The PPKS doesn't have that wraparound grip. It's got the two sides, but again, I think maybe that's why the PPK actually may be a little bit more comfortable in this respect again. And it's also a 1 round shorter, so it's a little bit shorter in the grip as well. These are both double action, single action guns, so you are hammer fired. And we'll take it off safe. So you've got a hammer on both of them. Single action on this, not too bad. I mean, it's not anything pretty. Double action isn't too bad. They're pretty well broken in, but the single action, still not great. Single action on the PPK is a lot cleaner. That is a very short, crisp drop, but the double action is a lot heavier actually. So if you're looking at them head to head, they're both single action or double action, single action, so you're going to get a better single action trigger pull and you're going to get a little bit heavier double action pull. One addition you get on the Makarov is you're going to have a lanyard ring here. It does come with a holster, or at least mine did. You can get these with the holster. It carries an extra magazine in it. It'll carry an extra magazine. You get a cleaning rod that can come with it. A little lanyard here that you can connect to the bottom of your Makarov and keep it in the holster. Not all the Makarovs come with those nowadays. A few years back when you'd get these Makarovs were really coming in, you'd get the magazine and the case and everything together, and it was a nice little package. Not that I ever use it, but it's nice to have it more of a collector to keep the gun with the holster and those kind of things. When it comes to sights, they're very similar again. You have a molded front sight. It's built into your slide, and the rear sights are both driftable, and you can change them out if you can find some for it. Your front sights, though, are standard milled into the slide. You do have some slight checkering there to help with any anti-glare. A lot more on the PPK, a little bit less on the Makarov. It's a little bit thinner there. But I've never had any issues with those. This isn't really shiny, so you're not going to get a lot of glare off it in the first place. If it's more like the side here, where it hasn't been buffed down, you might get a lot more glare off it, but the way it's done here, you're not going to catch it. And again, with the PPK, you get a little bit of a beaver tail here, whereas on the Makarov, it's just a little more rounded. That being said, where your hand rides on the Makarov, you're not going to get any slide bite off of that. Even with very meaty hands, you got to get it way up there. Whereas the PPK is known to give a little slide bite. The PPKS has that nice little beaver tail that'll keep your hand up away from that slide. Okay, my pros and cons on both of these. Obviously, the first thing I mentioned earlier was the uncomfortableness of the the grip on the PPK. I mean, it's not terrible. It's not terribly uncomfortable. It's just something that's very noticeable. With the Makarov, it's not there at all. It's a lot more comfortable. I have medium to larger hands, so the Makarov fits really nicely. You get the 3 full fingers. The wraparound grip is the perfect size for medium-sized hands. It's not too small. As far as the trigger goes, you're not really stretching it out. It's a perfect length. It's a better fitting gun in my opinion. Like I said, if you look at the beaver tail and the length of the barrel, overall length, you're very close. This is where you're going to stick out a little bit. But if you're looking at a normal carry handgun, this is still going to be a lot shorter than, say, a Glock 19 or something like that, or at least in the same ballpark. But you're looking at single stack. They are both very heavy handguns. They're both all steel handguns. So that's going to be a little bit of a negative if you're looking for concealed carry. If you're not worried about weight, these are great because they're slim. They're not very wide. They're both single stack guns, so they'll fit very nicely. Okay, so let's take a look inside. We'll break it down, and just so you can see the blowback design in each of them. Okay, to take down the PPK again, you pull your trigger guard out, hook it there on the side a little bit, run your slide back, lift it off, and there you go. Now you've got your slide and your frame, again, with the barrel attached to the frame. Again, that's what I was talking about with that blowback design. You're going to not have a tilting barrel or rotating barrel. It is affixed to the frame. Same thing we're going to see with the Makarov. Same idea. Pull your trigger guard down, hook it over to the side a little bit, bring it back, lift it off, and there we go. Same thing. Both very similar. A little bit longer barrel length on the Makarov, but it's very similar breakdown, very similar internals. And in fact, the Makarov is a copycat of the PPK. So there you have it. Okay, putting them back together is just as easy. Just slide this back in, run it over the top, slide it back, put your trigger guard back in place. Same thing with the PPK. Gonna run it back in, slide it all the way back, let it run forward, trigger guard back in, and you're good to go. And both of these are back in action. Very easy to break down, very easy to use, very easy to clean. So if you're comparing them to a modern day striker fire gun, these are just as easy, if not easier, to get apart and clean. So overall, they're both great single stack blowback handguns. You can't go wrong with either one of them. If you are a little more comfortable with larger hands, this is going to fit you a lot better. It is a little bit of a hotter round than the 380 ACP that you're going to get out of the Walther, but they're both fantastic handguns. They're both proven. I mean, the PPK's been around for years. The Makarov copied the design because it was a great design. So they've both been around for years, and they're both very well proven. These are a nice little collector item, and you can get these fairly cheap. They've gone up a little bit in price now. They're probably getting closer to the $400 mark. But again, with any milsurp type guns, the earlier you get them, the better off you're going to be, because once they start selling them out, those prices are just going to increase. Look at your Mosin Nagants, your Makarovs, all your CZ styles. When they first came over, they were very cheap. Once you have them for a few years and they start flooding the market and getting them out of there, they become very expensive because there's no more coming in, or if they are, they're in small batches and they're increasing the price of them. So if you're interested in Makarov, by all means, go get one. They're great little pistols. If you want a little piece of history as well with the Walther PPK and Mr. James Bond, another fantastic choice. Anyway, just a quick comparison between the two of them. Again, they're very similar. So take a look, check them out. If you ever get a chance to shoot one of them, by all means, get out and do it. So if you get an opportunity to get out and shoot any of these, I highly recommend it. They're great little handguns. If you have an opportunity to pick one of them up, especially the Makarov at this point, I know Walther's re-releasing some of their PPK line this year, but the Makarovs are really going, and the prices are starting to go up. So if you get an opportunity and you want to collect and you like collecting guns, this is a great one to get in your collection, and it's a fun one to shoot as well. It's a very comfortable gun to shoot. You could even use it as an everyday carry if you wanted to. But anyway, If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. There's a couple of the videos I'll pop up here if you want to check out some of the other videos. If you have any comments, please put them down below. Always welcome to hear what other people have to say, especially when it comes to some of these guns here. They've been around for a long time. There's a lot of people out there that have used them. Always love to hear what other people have to say and some of the issues and things that they've had with them. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you again soon.